Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Liberty Counsel asked New York's highest court to review the case involving the marriage vote. We'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, this week, Liberty Counsel filed a petition to New York's highest court. There, it's called the Court of Appeals, asking the court to review a challenge to the New York legislature's vote regarding the redefinition of marriage that includes people of the same sex. Liberty Counsel filed this suit in the New York Supreme Court, which New York has their courts all confused in terms of which one's the Supreme. The trial court is the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is actually the Court of Appeals. So the
Supreme Court isn't really so supreme.
It's the entry court. So anyway, we filed suit in the trial court against the law. It was signed into law June 24, 2011 by Governor Cuomo. And we asked the law to ultimately be enjoined because of the open meetings violations that occurred during the passage of this legislation.
Right. New York law requires that a bill be printed and in its final form on the desks of the legislators 3 days prior to a vote unless an emergency exists. And Matt, as you know, Governor Cuomo ignored this provision and declared an emergency where there was clearly no emergency, stating that waiting 3 days would deprive same-sex couples of marriage. That was clearly an end run around the law, and I guess, you know, the left, we've come to expect them to engage in this kind of lawlessness, but that's exactly what Governor Cuomo did here, and so they rammed this thing through and avoided that notice provision that law requires. And
in addition, amazingly, the Republican led Senate, and Republicans were just as bad as the Democrats in this case. And in fact, one of the stalwarts who was opposing this was a Democrat who stood up, and his voice wasn't even heard by the Republican leadership. But the Republican-led Senate ultimately locked out people. They had meetings with Governor Cuomo and also with the mayor, Michael Bloomberg, where the public was not invited, and there was obviously enough for a quorum for a legislative meeting. And under New York law, they require open meetings. They require that the legislature be transparent so that the people are able to observe the discussion and the debate and participate in the political process. But what they did here was literally lock the doors. In some cases, they met privately off-site, and in other places, they were in the actual chamber and they locked the doors so that the people in the chambers could not get out and the people on the outside could not get in. We have one lobbyist who's been lobbying for nearly 30 years, has never seen anything like this in his life, where they literally were shutting the people out. Governor Cuomo and Mayor Michael Bloomberg also were promising some of the Republicans that if you switch your vote and you vote in favor of this, they will give different political contributions to the candidates. And Mayor Michael Bloomberg followed up on that promise. And when they did switch their votes, he gave significant financial contributions to their reelection campaign.
So in the state of New York, so-called same-sex marriage, counterfeit marriage, is not only inherently counterfeit. In New York State, it is built on a platform of political corruption, and it shouldn't surprise us. And what a metaphor that presents, the fact that they would lock out the people and do all of this behind smoky closed doors, all this wrangling and backdoor dealing and backroom dealing and so forth. It's really not surprising. But when you think about it, Matt, we the people in this nation are the sovereign, and we elect these individuals as hired help. They need to be held accountable for this. And where we the people have had a chance to speak on marriage, we've spoken without stuttering. 32 out of 32 times states have voted on marriage. Even states, liberal states, have voted on marriage. We have voted to defend natural marriage, and these kind of back deals and this kind of corruption is the only way they can ram through counterfeit marriage.
Well, the government tried to dismiss our lawsuit when we filed it in the trial court, and Judge Wiggins sided with us. And regards to that first part that you're talking about with regards to Cuomo and the so-called emergency. The judge wrote, logically and clearly this cite by the governor is disingenuous. The review of such concept-altering legislation for 3 days after generations of existing definitions would not so damage same-sex couples as to necessitate an avoidance of rules meant to ensure full review and discussion prior to any vote. So he did not like the governor's comment on there. He ultimately said, although the disregard for the statute seems evident, the court feels constrained to not rule on the governor's certification of necessity. So the judge did not rule on that, but felt that it was disingenuous. But the judge did rule on the open meetings violation, and the judge said this. The court noted that New York law requires the meetings to be open to a public body, to be open to the general public with very few exceptions, none of which applied to this case. And on this particular issue, he said that there was clear arm twisting by the executive and the legislative that permeates the entire process. He ultimately ruled in our favor on that, felt that it was a case that should go to trial, the remedy of which we were seeking was the voiding of the entire law to start again. It went up on appeal. And during the appeal, the appeals court ultimately reversed. So now where we are is we are petitioning the high court, which we did this week, the New York's high court, which is called the Court of Appeals. And we're asking them to review this matter to ultimately get involved in this case. So it's still going forward. I think that objectively there was a clear violation of the open meetings. The only way to remedy that is to start all over again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Will that happen in New York State? It remains to be seen. If the law is applied, and if these judges all approach this from an objective standpoint, and look to do their job and see that the law is applied, then it should be reversed, and they should have to start from scratch. And I would hope that at that point we the people would in the state of New York would have something to say about it, and that this kind of backroom dealing and literally shutting and locking the doors so we the people cannot engage in the debate. Hopefully they will see fit to do what's right this time around.
Well, you know, when you see the judge saying that there was clear arm twisting by the executive and the legislative that permeates the entire process and that there was no reason that they should violate the open meetings law, that's pretty significant. And the open meetings law is a law passed by the people in New York, the legislature in New York, that requires that these meetings be open, transparent. The problem is that they didn't want the public to participate. They didn't want the input. They didn't want the public to get with the legislators to express their opinion. They wanted only certain people to get around the Republican leadership, the governor, Cuomo, and Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He's an independent. Cuomo's a Democrat. To twist their arms, to meet behind closed doors, to promise them campaign contributions so that they wouldn't get any opposition from the public. Because as you said, whenever this goes to the public, every single time it's gone to the public on marriage, the people have always voted in favor of natural marriage. They wanted to freeze out the public's voice so they could pass this law in New York.
But we shouldn't be surprised because people who embrace a worldview of moral relativism that believe all morality is relative, it's easy for them to come up with this ends justifies the means kind of shenanigans. If they think sexual morality is relative and that we can impose this oxymoronic notion of same-sex marriage, why then all morality is relative. So what's to keep them from breaking the law here in this instance in order to, in an ends justifies the means kind of way, ram same-sex marriage down the people's throats there in the state of New York? That's the problem with moral relativism. Sorry, guys, there is right and wrong. There is black and white. That's why we have laws like this open meetings law. Those laws are expected to be adhered to, and when those laws are broken or circumvented, as in this case, there's a word for that. Corruption, another word for that. Illegality. That's what we saw going on in New York.
That's exactly what was going on, and that's why I think it really undermines the entire process. Go to Liberty Counsel's website for more information on Liberty Counsel. You can go to lc.org. Pray for the ministry of Liberty Counsel and also financially support Liberty Counsel. You can do that right there from the website with a secured credit card contribution, or the address is there as well. You can send in a check Also, Liberty Counsel is a nonprofit tax-exempt organization, so other kinds of contributions are available as well. Just call Liberty Counsel's phone number, 800-671-1776. You can also order the couple of books that we have. One is Rena Linda Voltson's book called Only One Mommy. It's the story of Lisa Miller. And then my book, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. These and other resources are available on the website at lc.org. And also, women who are wanting to attend a spiritual uplifting conference that also will equip you to impact your community, I encourage you to attend the WIN conference, Women Impacting the Nation. That's coming September in Orlando, Florida. Go to lc.org for more information.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.